Are we recording? We are. We are. Welcome back. Artist Journal, May 12th, 2025, broadcasting from the inner half of the nervous system, deep in inner space, in the non-space of the mind. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. Continuing on, and look who it is. Look who it is as we continue to sail and find all sorts of exotic, strange people through our wanderings. Here's Turbo Jambon, also known as Patrick Jambon, as I was learning from the Guardian article, also known as Mr. Jambon. I can't wait to call him that. Mr. Jambon, Monsieur Jambon. Wonderful, wonderful. So, for very long-time listeners, you might remember me, there's been 400 shows. Let's call it like 100 shows in, 150 shows in. Let's call it 125. I was telling people about Turbo Jambon, and I was getting criticism of showing too much of the same artists. Actually, there's more criticism this episode. Delightfully, I might add. And I was saying, listen, I'm even telling you about Turbo Jambon, Patrick Jambon, and you probably think that's nothing. But if you come to the Berlin art scene, you're gonna, this is like precious information. Well, look at what happened. Look at what happened. The Berlin art legend who found his calling in sneaking into other artists' shows. And so it finally happened. I've been hearing about this. I proudly say Patrick is a friend of mine. And I've been hearing about this mythical Guardian article for a year. And I saw actually Patrick just actually at the beginning of a gallery weekend here, so a week and a half ago, on the way to a show. We actually went, I proudly say, together to that first show at Tanya Layton. And he was saying, I think it's going to happen. And we were talking in French. I was practicing my French, of course, from Lyon. So let's take just a very quick look here. At Patrick Jambon, it's a massive show today. So there's a ton to get through. It's going to be a challenge to get this done in an hour. But we have to look a bit at this. A wonderful individual here, disillusioned with art that didn't engage with the public, Mr. Jambon, which means ham in French, by the way, found deeper meaning in striking up conversations at openings. After 6,000 shows in 25 years, could the gallery's project come to an end? As I always say to him, whenever I see him at a show, which is not uncommon, it's like, I chose well today because you're here. I did a good job in choosing which gallery I was going to go to. As the crowd outside a gallery in central Berlin filters indoors to get out of the rain, a man in a bright red t-shirt with cartoonish large metal frame glasses in the opposite direction. He's actually one of the first people I met here when I came to Berlin before I moved here. In 2015, I came for, I think it was called ABC, Art Berlin Contemporary. It was my excuse for coming to Berlin. Oh, let's go to an art show. It's a reason to go. You never know who you'll meet. Right? Well, here's someone I met, actually, and I just thought he looked so interesting. I don't do this that often. I just sort of cold called him and said, hi, my name's Adrian. Who are you, basically? So here's Patrick Jambon, a 58-year-old Frenchman, leaves Neue Galerie, makes for his bike. The rain is not stopping him from making most of Berlin's gallery weekend, when many of the 400 galleries were showing, because Jambon, who goes by the nom de plume, Monsieur Jambon, or Turbo Jambon, is not visiting galleries as an ordinary culture vulture, but as a nonstop performance. So I just wanted to, actually, here's a little piece of alpha for you as well. For those that are wondering, let's say you visit Berlin and you don't know what to do, this is the website you go to, Index Berlin. Every day, Jambon spends a few hours compiling a list of gallery openings from websites such as Index Berlin. Massive alpha here for everybody watching globally. This international show. Incredibly, I was getting posts, watching Artist Journal from Taiwan, watching Artist Journal from Patagonia. Kind of more on that later. I think that should be a marketing campaign. Maybe I'll mention it now. If you want to help out this show, or you see your art, take a picture on the screen like people do. It's that easy. And you say, watching from XYZ, Chicago, whatever, Guadalajara. So here's Patrick. Anyways, I had to start with this. This is brilliant. Quote, you aren't a real artist. You aren't a real Berlin artist if you don't know him. says the Korean visual artist A-hee Lee, who I think I know, actually. Always the most colorfully dressed in the room, he sticks out at any openings he attends, as he attends many. In the 25 years that Jambon has lived in Berlin, he estimates that he's been more than 6,000 shows. Talking about Gallery Weekend, originally from Lyon, he went to the prestigious Dusseldorf Academy of Media Arts. And basically, relatively early on, I realized I missed interacting with the audience. So in a sense, this is the nub of it here. A very friendly individual, I might add, kind of encapsulates the spirit of Berlin, the openness at its best, is how I'd put it, at its best. Most people come say hi to me, but I don't know who they are, or sometimes only remember who they are later. This is true. And if you hang out with Patrick, you'll kind of constantly get this people waving and saying hi. So it's kind of back to this art that's fun. I've talked about this in the past with the Kurt Hustle Collective, kind of fun art. We talked about that just last episode with Bite by Bit and Banner Mania. Don't give up. And you know what? Another word that kind of encapsulated the don't give up thing was hope. There's something to be said for hope, right? Especially for people who are, everybody gets down on their luck. And it's kind of nice to see an art piece that's also an emotion that we can celebrate in the artistic, it's also in the range of human emotion. That again isn't, so when I see here, you see a certain degree of humor and fun, which I think is just worth highlighting here. And also noting, it's not all, as I was saying last time, a downer. So finally, still Mr. Jambon plods along with his project. Quote, some people leave or go elsewhere, he says, but there is no real alternative. There is no city like Berlin anywhere else. And so, indeed, that's true. A great ambassador, really the art ambassador de facto of this city, Turbo Jambon. So, I'm so glad that happened. What a wonderful situation. So, let's look at the comments here last episode. Pretty peachy. I've been watching the show for a bit now and just want to say I absolutely love it. This is a delight to hear. I haven't seen thoughtful commentary and analysis like this in other places. I really hope you continue and that the show grows in proportion to how valuable it is to the art scene. Thank you very much. I take pride, and this is going to come up later, I take pride in the unpretentious discussion of art, which is based in my sense that it's a real thing. Because I've been to, 90% of the presentations, say you go to here in Berlin, if it's an art talk, it's people, it gets pretty pretentious pretty quickly, and I find it does a disservice to art because art is a real thing. And so it doesn't need pretension. So if you can just so that is kind of my philosophy, really, and approach into discussing art. Here's just as an unpretentious as possible approach to dealing with these works, because it's real, right? The episodes have been a bridge for me back into the art medium I loved as a child and discarded because my parents really did not view digital art as a viable art form. Hearing about the new, it's interesting, isn't it? You hear about the new expanse of possibilities is really uplifting. And I'm curious to know any guidance you might have for traditional artists looking to integrate digital objects into their art practice. I love it. Digital objects. What you would start exploring with or general advice. So, wonderful question, and probably a question that a few people have who have stumbled across this show. So this is how, I'll tell you how I started. I mean, look, I made, in Photoshop in 2000s, I would do stuff. Photoshop I was kind of discussing this last episode. The old software, it was kind of hard to make things, I would argue, beautiful. You could do it and you could kind of have your collage, but I think that's part of the reason why digital art was kind of slow. It was being used, and yeah, there's net art and all this sort of stuff, but really kind of excitingly beautiful works in the way that we look at Impressionist paintings, I would argue is kind of a newer thing. The way I sort of really got back into digital was kind of circumstance. I was working in an office 8 hours a day, which is still, I still work for this company. I'm the podcast host for the Northern Miner, but I was in the office as an editor. And I'll keep this as short as I can. I was as an editor, but I was an artist. And so I would go out at lunch and I had the new iPhone 6S and I was like, you can make art with this thing. You can make art. I took it out at lunch. So all of a sudden, every lunch hour, I'd spend an hour making art. And as artists know, you know what? An hour a day is not bad. If you spend an hour a day, it's not like you get somewhere. Ideally, it's like 4, maybe 5, maybe more. But, if you're doing an hour a day, you can call yourself an artist in my world. So that's how I got started. So this is how the phone is an underutilized, underappreciated tool. Use the tools that you have. Everybody has a phone pretty much today. So I'd say start looking at some apps and muck around. And I'd say the iPad is fun. And as far as the desktop, I would say play around a lot. There's Sprite for pixel art. It's worth knowing the 5 tools of Photoshop, select, brush, pencil tool, magic wand, which is selection at the end of the day. You don't need to know too much, layer styles, this sort of thing. But I would start with apps on the phone because they're designed to be fun, or probably the iPad is the easiest way if you have a pencil and an iPad, the Apple Pencil, if you have it. If you don't, start with the phone and just see what you can do. You can draw with your finger painting. It's a whole, underutilized, underappreciated, something I've done a lot, and I kind of have a lot to say about it that I haven't really discussed that much, but finger painting. It's a whole other way of approaching things. And finally, on the phone. You can take a phone, what's cool about the phone is it's this very small canvas, and you can fill up that small canvas very quickly with your finger. And that thing can be magnified hugely and cover a wall, basically. So it's pretty interesting how you can do that, because if you were physically painting, you'd be laboring there all day to paint that wall, right? So I would, phone, iPad is probably if you have an iPad, the lowest hanging fruit. Thank you for the wonderful comment, and feel free to chime in if you have more questions or, ideas. Procreate on iPad is what a lot of people use. So I'd start with Procreate. I think that's the easiest if you have a tablet. Illusion T Soul, there's always that type of post on X, which reflects back to the nostalgia of 2021. Well, it was financially, I would say, the biggest bull market in history. As I was telling people, it's like a tsunami that's coming. Because I was watching Real Vision with Raoul Pal and all of the bullishness around crypto, I was like, and it came. Trying to get back to that moment somehow. Yeah, I was fresh to the scene in 2022, missed the boat completely, and what I have learned going through the change and the evolution of the space is that we should not just be looking backwards. As an artist, I'm evolving now, learning my techniques right now, and using the technology to bring my process to people. We need to recognize the moment of change for digital art is within the present moment. Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, weirdly, I would say this is why it's so useful, I find, to separate the crypto art scene from art on the blockchain, even though, as I've said, there's overlap between the two. But I think it's really helpful because, as we're going to see actually in a future tab, it's almost like this weird idolatry that happens towards these figures in the crypto art space and they almost become this pantheon that, and then everything after is somehow, not as important. There's kind of firstism which there's something to be said for that, but sometimes it gets over appreciated in the crypto space. So all to say, I agree. The revolution that's happening, I would argue, is mostly outside of the crypto art space. Interestingly, it's at least, and that's just my perspective, but that's what I cover here. Generally speaking, is what I consider a digital art revolution, which is basically largely unappreciated. I don't want to say largely, that's changed. Actually, and the show has actually helped that appreciation over 400 among a small cadre. right? But it is, still in institutional and mainstream level, it's pretty much off the radar. I think that's changing though slightly. But anyways, thank you for, there's many things that can be said. Thank you for the comments. And I agree. Nicholas Dietrich, thanks for the mention, Adrian. I still haven't decided whether to leave it like that or not. Absolutely love Fornax Void. The combination of mind-blowing visuals and evocative audio is extremely powerful. Yeah, Fornax Void. Speaking of underappreciated, really very cool artist, worth checking out their profile on Object. And I'll be curious to see where those beautiful green trees go, Nicholas. Thank you for the comment. Great to hear from you. Omizu Paints, good morning, Pocobelli. Another great episode of the Artist Journal. Love the opening work. Very nostalgic. Yes, the Banner Mania. Have you given any thought to premiering your vids here on YouTube? I hadn't. It might give the community another way to connect while engaging with your wonderful content. Just a thought. Cheers. It's kind of interesting. Like, I never considered it because I didn't know what it could bring me. But is there commenting that can happen during the premiere? Is that the idea? And the only thing with that, too, is basically I get the video up as soon as I can. And so sometimes that might be later in the day, sometimes. So the premiering might be different, but there's something to be said for this. I will look into this, and thank you for bringing it up. Very interesting. And Stip and Pixel, great to hear from you. Wonderful work on Chain there. Also turned out, and thank you for the positive comments on the show. Like, I was thinking when I put this title out, I was like, I don't know if anybody is going to want to retweet this. I felt like, but I was just like, it just is what it is. And as I always do, I just go, okay, publish, and then run for the hills and busy myself with something else, but amazing response here. So thank you. Thrilled to see this. Tippy, the Fabulous, reminded me of So Fabulous, which is the Banner Mania by Byte by Bit. I mean, and I'm thrilled that people, that it resonate with people. It reminded me of the combs with various stickers on them that in the 80s people would have sticking out of their Jordache jeans, decal messaging. My favorite were decals on our t-shirts. I used to have black t-shirt iron-on that said Disco Sucks and Glitter and Rainbows. And as I put here, Disco Sucks would be an amazing one, Byte by Bit, and it's done. And we're going to see that later this episode. I didn't realize it was here. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I loved that. Okay, continue. I love disco, by the way. Ed Woods, but I love that piece too. Thanks for the shout out, Poco. Much appreciated. It's based on artwork from an old game called the Chaos Engine, which is fantastic, by the way. Played on Amiga. Best played on Amiga. This is an interesting little detail here. Best played on Amiga. It's sort of like Ultima 4. Best played on an Apple II, very interesting. And the hardware component, sometimes hardware is underappreciated, actually. I would argue, as the focus is often on the software in digital art, but hardware is worth noting. Like iPhone, the iPad, in the sense that's where I'm starting as far as, because that's your starting point, right? You need a piece of hardware. And the hardware is going to, are you going to be using a mouse with a desktop or a laptop or even the little trackpad here with your finger? Or are you going to be, using your finger on a phone? Are you going to be using an Apple Pencil? So all very interesting. We have more beautiful work. Ed Woods. Beautiful, pesky work here today. Bosque Gracias, how wonderfully described the tiny piece of joy in the Don't Give Up. Thank you, Poco. The Artist Journal is getting better and better every morning. Well, thank you, Bosque, and I can't wait to... Actually, Bosque posted from Patagonia. Thank you for that post. It's very exciting. I think that's the marketing campaign. If put it this way, if you want to help out this show, watching Artist Journal from Berlin, watching Artist Journal from Tokyo. I mean, Taiwan was rad. Thank you, Bosque. Awesome to hear, and glad you're loving it. Skardek, making coffee specifically to watch this. Wonderful. That is what it's all about, my friend. James DuBlue, love this. Thanks for supporting so many artists and diving deep into so many topics. Was informative and entertaining. Well, this is like, is it Horace? Horace? I mean, early texts on aesthetics, be informative, educational, and entertaining. So thank you, Jams. Wonderful to hear from you. Gogolitis, we're going to hear again from Gogolitis in a second. Thank you for the comment. No Hygiene, great to hear from you. More works. I don't know if I put the video, I think I did at the end, which is, we'll see if it will play. Thank you, Object.com. Wonderful to hear from you, and thank you for the positivity. Mr. K, more positive vibes. We're going to hear again from Mr. K. Thank you. You're singing my song, Poco. Great episode. Probably talking about the downers we often experience in the contemporary art galleries. A Rural Idol, another great one, Poco. This is interesting. What great comments we have here. Afake, Mondrian, and Kandinsky were adherents of Blavatsky, or at least theosophy adjacent. Yeah, Madame Blavatsky, if I'm not mistaken, feels only recently the full influence of New Age thinking on abstract art is being explored, including the overdue inclusion of Hilma af Klint. Thank you for, I was getting the name wrong. It's not Hilna and it's not Hilda, it's Hilma af Klint into the canon. And I saw an incredible show of, I think it was in New York. The last time I was in New York, I think it was at the Guggenheim. They had a show, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while. It's probably been 10 years. So anyways, very nice addition here. And Mondrian and Kandinsky were adherents of Blavatsky. So you see the intellectual underpinnings. Like when we look at abstract art, it's easy to just think, okay, we're going to do, because it's like a paradigm shift. And we look at it in retrospect as a way of thinking. But then like it had to be it was so radical in a sense that it had to be kind of incrementally moved towards. And then it kind of just became its own thing. It's almost like we're going back to Whitehead, Alfred North Whitehead, emergence. It almost emerged organically into, let's continue. Ariel, thanks, Adrian. It's always a pleasure to be part of the best art exhibition on the internet. This was a delightful comment. I actually shared this on Instagram. Thank you, Ariel. Awesome to hear. That was the best. That was a great comment. Wonderful comment to hear. Dreampunks, I love your art videos, although sometimes I get the feeling of a Tezos overdose. Yes. It doesn't need to be that way, but it started as basically the foundation of the show. In terms of the notifications on Object, basically gave me a news feed where I could go, I can do this regularly because there's enough kind of interesting art in my notifications to build a show. And so here's some cool AI artwork by Dreampunks. Thank you for posting. Low Trips, hey Pogo, cool textures, by the way. Almost looks like GAN, right? Low Trips, hey Pogo, it's a legit site created by Dimi Tabaretz for the Leopardism exhibition, which I'm a part of. Yeah, I think it looked legit, but when it all of a sudden says your computer is infected, I don't want to find out if it's real or not, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah, and Low Trips, I think you'll mean it gets a visual virus or something, but yeah, it can be a bit scary. Like, I just don't, and maybe I'm just overly conservative with my web browsing, but last thing, yeah. So, yeah. So, I guess, so to each their own. Cool. Anyways, Suji, great to hear from you. NFT Sizzle, I am your brother from another mother. I hope not, NFT Sizzle. Stoner NFT News number 15. So there are alternatives out there, friends. So there we go. So the anonymous thing, it's quite interesting. I don't know if this person is trying to stay anonymous. So I don't know what's going on over there. Let's just continue. Hicket Nunk, thank you. Great to hear from you. August Ground, nice showcase on that Oblivion Fields. I picked that up. Yeah, it is great work. I agree. A nice newer addition to the show here, Oblivion Fields, making beautiful work. Neural Divine, thank you for sharing my work. You're my absolute pleasure. Deggy D, good morning. Thanks for the post. It sparked some great discussions on mentioning my post on Abstract. I hope to catch up on some latest videos. Things have been busy, but I'm trying to make time for collecting, writing, and learning about digital art. Your videos are at the top of the list. Thank you. Deggy D, Oblivion Fields, thanks for showing my work. Such a good show. I bookmarked so much art from this one, and I love that you showed so many zero-contract on-chain pieces, one of the best Tezos communities. They sure seem like it, don't they? Nuv1914, great to hear from you. And Little Cakes, that is how the sausage is made. Love that you showed Time's process vid. And we have Little Cakes AI video. How are we doing? We got to keep running here. Gogolitis. Earlier, while watching Pocobelli's journal, an idea struck me. Of course I follow Gogolitis. That is a glitch on X. I thought it would be helpful to create a sort of summary trombinoscope featuring the artworks Adrian mentioned in his journal, but I wondered how I can make this task less tedious. So I used Grok to iterate some code and build a small tool that allows me to select a capture area on my screen. Each time I press a key of my choice, it takes a screenshot of that area and saves it to a folder. I tell you, the software programming is now being open to everybody. I think, as Gogolitis said here, I don't even know Python, but I used Python. But through Grok, I can take as many captures as I want, and when I'm done, I simply click a button to compile all the images into a summary-styled trombinoscope. I've never heard this word before. It only took me about an hour to create this little software, and here's the result. Pretty cool, right? And so how cool is that? And it's just a matter of time before we get the titles and the links where, as I was saying to Gogo, like we could probably just feed this in, and then get and say these are from these 3 or 4 websites, X, Object, Instagram, whatever, Foundation, let's say, or wherever else, and maybe that's enough. It's going to get there. It could be like months away. Maybe it's already there. And here we go, NFT Sizzle again. So yeah, it's written in Python, even though I don't know Python. How awesome is that? So not all is well. Joe Rogan's dad, one major issue with the digital art discussion, there's no evergreen content in which we can point to and share with others. There should be a saga of YouTube videos that explains the Tezos art scene and pivotal points from 2021 to now. The new metas, the launch of artist groups, the creme de la creme, the grip that collector influencers wielded for better for worse, Cosmo, Vincent Van Gogh, creating artist memes of the current events, the grifters, Marina Abramovich, and the scandals dramas that unfolded, threesomes, or howdy-do. I mean, it's all subjective what the real news is. I mean, perhaps, for Joe Rogan's dad, this is the real news. For me, I wouldn't actually do a show on this because it wouldn't even be that interesting from just a personal perspective. Although I love the creme de la creme crowd, don't get me wrong. And actually, that is in my history. That I've written here. Let's continue. And the stuff of the history books like The Beginning of Hen, Xerox, Robness Officials, Trash Art. Like, to me, this is already the history that is already known. Flexosaurus Rex, Tez Vending Machine, the Tez Poll, Die with the Most Likes, and Dark Farms. Even some TikToks and shorts of this content would be fun. We need to preserve a record for future generations. So, yeah, and... yeah, where was it? So then Pocobelli's Artist Journals documents a lot of the digital art movement. Yeah, I felt like you could, I felt, I don't know if I'd say I was hurt, but I thought like, I'm doing something over here. But I take, but everybody has a different opinion, and my history might be different from Joe Rogan's dad's history, or from even the majority of the crypto community, and they may not love the fact that I'm saying, hey, that's crypto art. This is art on the blockchain, and there's a little bit of overlap here. They may not like that. Maybe Joe Rogan's dad doesn't like that. One thing that's amazed me here is how little pushback I've gotten in 420 shows or whatever the case is. I'm amazed, actually. So, in a sense, so thank you, McBreezy, for mentioning this. I agreed, though, we could use short-form content, so we'll get into this in a second, but I brought it up. Pocobelli makes a vital contribution, but his show is already for those in the know. And I just totally disagree with this. For those in the know, to me, this is like, that is not my intention. And I think that YouTube comment that we saw earlier of people stumbling across it and it being accessible to them, and I consider my content evergreen. In many ways, for me, the audience of this show may not even, frankly, be born yet. So... it's all subjective, let's put it this way, but I consider the work here that I'm doing is evergreen, meaning it doesn't date. Otherwise, I put it this way, if these people that do news, like classic news of, the financial markets, like that stuff dates immediately. It's old in like 6 hours. Maybe you have 12 hours max. So I don't think that's like this. People can watch old shows and enjoy them. And I was saying here, this sounds like a history of crypto art with the Tezos blockchain, which I don't think traditional art lovers would actually be that excited about. And they're not. And it happened just the other day at Gallery Weekend. I ran into this American curator. Oh, digital. And then actually they have reservations. I'm like, no. Like, yes, it uses the same technology as NFTs, but it's not crypto art. It's something else. It's art on the blockchain. It's a different thing. Crypto art is the stuff that the crypto community loves. And there's interest when I start talking about it like that, but otherwise they just go, they'll say like, no, the art is terrible, is what they'll tell me. okay, when they're thinking of crypto art. And I'm not saying that, but I'm saying a lot of people do say that. And so here, I think I'm being called an elitist. I'd argue that is the same crowd. Art people. I want non-art people. I don't think you're going to find a more accessible, frankly, way in. I take pride on this not being a pretentious like discussion here. And real world, and it's, I'm improvising here, but layman, I'm just a regular guy from middle America, no art background, no worldly perspective, just a modest education and an internet connection. Like, I feel like if you can't like access this show, I mean, where are we? Like at a certain point, like, is this on me? So anyways, we are fading into obscurity. I won't accept this space so I don't know what you're going to do. So anyway, and I thought this was an interesting point, actually continuing this discussion. So Cosmo, I mean, whose show does this remind you of? If you want to, as people, celebrate Cosmo as the ultimate collector and we all have to love Cosmo and is like the, whose show does this remind you of? At the start of the last Art Tank. So I don't think we're fading into obscurity. And you can look at, I could do this for like half an hour doing this. We could look at all the numbers here of the, the numbers on Twitter are not bad at all for this show. And they actually stack up pretty well, actually, against these supposed major influencers. So anyways, thank you, Mr. K. I'm really digging Pocobelli. For me, a really great example of accessible and this is why I wanted to highlight this, unpretentious art commentary, where I'm learning as much from his ideas and perspectives as from my intellectual reactions to them, which is everything I would hope for here, and what I hope is kind of a Socratic conversation here of sorts. So thank you for that. Again, Joe Rogan's dad, there is not a single YouTube video with 1,000 or more views that talks about digital art or the Tezos art scene, and I think this is factually wrong on both accounts. How can there not be a YouTube video talking about digital art? That seems hard to believe. I mean, have I looked? No, but really? Or the Tezos art scene, and that's a problem. As Low Trips pointed out, we have several, and this is a thing. Like, I put it on X and on YouTube. I could just put it on YouTube, but I say, hey, let the community watch it basically ad-free. And I think the reach is worthwhile. People retweet it, so there's more awareness of the show. If I put it all on YouTube and just say that's the only place you can get it, which isn't really my philosophy, I think it's good to diversify. You never know what happens to any of these platforms. Maybe you get deplatformed for some reason. Someone doesn't like you and starts writing terrible things about you, right? This happens. So all to say, this, okay, I stand corrected, but this is still near zero. So I can't, it seems like Joe Rogan's dad is not happy with this show, which is fine. But it kind of makes me a little bit sad as an early supporter of this show and as the last person we put on the spaces, and now it's just like, so it could be the whole crypto art discussion. And to be fair, it's pretty amazing how little criticism this show has gotten, considering, everything all being said. So all to say, let's continue. And I did want to point out, this, I just put this out actually this weekend. This got 1,000 views just on its own. This little vertical. We're doing the vertical. Thank you, Yudho, for the push. We did Mumble Boy, where I say Mumble Boy about 100 times, which I thought was hilarious, actually. And actually, I put it on TikTok, too. Look at the Mumble Boy did 1,700. I mean, these aren't bad numbers for just kind of getting started here. The format, I think, is not bad, right? It's fairly easy for me to put this together. I do it all on my phone, amazingly, for the most part. Except for the basic setup. But otherwise, I basically make these on my phone. So, all to say, it continues here in the vertical video. Mikhail Nolson, I had to highlight this. So, as far as encouragement, I've mentioned this tweet many times, but I don't think I've ever found it. Mikhail Nolson, who's an artist, we're actually going to see this episode. This is from July 4th, 2022. So, almost 3 years ago when I started, when I did a Spotify basically on what was happening on Tezos. And Mikael Nolson wrote this. Just bumped into this podcast episode on Spotify. Hope you carry on with this, Pocobelli. Was a good listen. This is before it was video. There were 2 episodes, I think. Did a search and just realized you make the synths that One by One NFT has been posting from Typed Art too. Great stuff. So, and a link to the Spotify. So, just awesome and great to hear from Mikael Nolson. So thank you. And here, a year later, hey, check out Pocobelli. So, and here, I was looking to see how long ago that was. I really can't believe that was nearly 3 years ago. It's amazing how much you have contributed on such a consistent basis to the art scene. So thank you for that. Thank you very much. Piero people. The only people who don't give up on Tezos, who didn't give up on Tezos are the ones who are actively involved in the art community here. You will all be rewarded. It's an interesting point. For that, 2022 to 2024, the art community was vibrant. I kept saying, what bear market was kind of my refrain for that 2 years. So anyways, nice comment from Pierre, people of Tezos. Amadon, good to keep in mind that tokenized digital art is important and different because we've crushed long-standing geographic and institutional barriers to allow thousands of artists to participate in the art market that wouldn't have otherwise been able to. And this is important to remember. And I think just bringing it down to fundamentals, Amadon, here's another kind of take on it. Eli Scheinman, contemporary artists who create with digital tools, distribute their work online, and get paid on-chain. And that really sums it up beautifully. And I think if more people just saw it this way, I'm not even worried about, frankly, bridging anywhere. I will try and increase my reach, but it's sort of like, as an artist, do you want to be competing with the whole world as you were in 2021? It's actually much better to a certain degree for artists right now. But of course, you bring another audience too and everything. So who knows? I love this. Of course, I follow mech.txt. I love this comment here. All roads lead to pixel art. Kind of a profound comment. And I think weirdly, I would say there's something to be said for that. A very interesting comment. This was interesting too, to go back to controversy. Claire Silver, talking badly about Xcopy makes you look jealous and small, by the way. El Craigo, it's absolutely okay, legit, and actually healthy, saying we don't like some art. Another thing is attacking the person. Curiously, is anonymous. Even so, we must learn this key difference. Otherwise, all becomes highly toxic in a culture where being honest and clear is punished. So I have a couple of views on this, actually pretty much one view, which is I do think it's bad form, as I've long maintained here, to say this art sucks. However, the exception to this, I would argue, is if you're in the very top tier. Because when you're in the top tier, what happens is everybody says, this is the greatest no matter what, and everything else is, basically doesn't need to be, and everything else is irrelevant. Let's put it this way. That's a short form. So there is this kind of, especially in visual art, like the fine arts, the contemporary art scene, both digital and physical, there is this kind of weird herd mentality. I would call it a herd mentality. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it's just human nature that, okay, we fixate on these 10 artists. Like if you go to art shows in the last, it's like the same 50 artists you look at in all the museums and everything, maybe 60. Here we go again. And I love David Hockney, wonderful artist, but here's another David Hockney retrospective. Here's another Picasso show. I've discussed this in the past. So I, in a sense, my take on this, without going into the specifics of the actual person and whatever, is if you're in that top tier, I think it's a different situation because that top tier is being lorded on everybody as you have to love this, and if you don't love this, you're an idiot, is kind of the, so I do think it's worthwhile to, but it has to be done very carefully and constructively and just objectively rather than emotionally, I would argue. Another kind of thing here is you could say, let me just fix my mouse here. Pray to fix my mouse. We have a lot going on here. What I would also say is, it's also saying, because Claire Silver is also a big personality, don't criticize Claire Silver because that'll make you jealous and small. So I'll just say, I'm really happy from my own perspective to separate the crypto art scene from what I call art on the blockchain. I think it's very helpful because you can kind of avoid a lot of these pitfalls, and it kind of clears the deck, so to speak, cleans the page, a fresh sheet of paper, to kind of actually reinterpret what is happening here. We're kind of back to reinterpreting, the history of digital art, almost back to JRD's point. And to be fair to JRD, Joe Rogan's dad, he's probably just going, this isn't the history that speaks to me. We need this other history. So fair enough. People can make whatever histories they want. So, yeah, as I call it here, the war for digital art, like it's real. Let's continue. Robness V3, sorry, but the glitch cartoon boy X-copy art isn't devoid of critique, and he definitely doesn't want that either. Lol. Or this space would just be Simpville and definitely less entertaining. Also referring to that same tweet. Yeah, it's well put. Let's just put it that way. Again, it's different if you're picking on an artist that is unknown and you go, oh, that art sucks. That's just mean and nasty. To call it bad form is like charitable. But if it's at the very top and then it's being said, no, you have to love this no matter what. It's going for millions of dollars, but you're not allowed to say anything about it and be like, well, should it be worth $1 million? So interesting. Kim Asendorf, I can't think of anyone who could even come close to replacing Xcopy. And you just see, okay, fair enough. Everybody's entitled to their view here. Sazy, X is the pioneer of digital art, and there's no other close candidate. He created a language and pushed it to many years. He is a pharaoh. The word pioneer has been overused in this space until meaningless. I think that's pharaoh, with an H, if I'm not mistaken. So, all to say, again, the value in separating art on the blockchain and the crypto culture, because this is obviously the pioneer of digital art. Now, I think to be fair to Sazy here, this commenter, I think there is something to be said for Xcopy, and as far as crypto art, you could argue Xcopy is right near the top of the most interesting. One could argue, or at least stylized and everything. There's something to be said for Xcopy within the crypto art thing, but also I'd say Uxine gives Xcopy a run for his money. I would argue, and there are other examples who are and Uxine is celebrated. Anyways, let's not get into the nitty gritty here. Let's not dig ourselves trenches here. Momo, as we shift gears here, Deadly Yuka. I wanted to do letterpress printing. Remember we were seeing that with Arno Beck just the other day. Look how great that looked. But I was a little worried about ordering from a large company. When I looked into it, I found that a small local printing company had an old letterpress printing machine, so I sent them an email hoping they would give it a try. So I just love Momo's genuineness. The tone of Momo's tweets, I never get tired of. This looks like Hermipe. Let's see what this says. Is this Hermipe? Sticker has been made. It shows the jumper worn by the scriptwriter Bill Yamazaki falling apart. What is that? So I'm not sure if this is Hermipe or not, but it sure looks like it. So interesting here. Kind of love the small format. I mean, you put a big Passepartout or a big mat around it. It could look great on your wall, even that small. Here, on the other hand, is Ripcash, another cool, I guess you'd call a crypto artist. So again, these are kind of gray lines, maybe in that overlap, we might say, because look at this. I mean, this is awesome. Big scale pixel art. Making nice physicals, so pretty cool. Stuff we can appreciate over here. Bosque Gracias. We choose these machines because it is easier to feel like a machine with them. Get ready for the next object for object. So as you see here, the typewriter at work. Speaking of Arno Beck, who made those great Super Mario works with typewriter. So very cool there from Bosque Gracias. And here we were noticing in a previous episode, Hermipe making pixelized sculpture, pixel art sculpture. Here, this looks like digital sculpture, doesn't it? Which is kind of interesting. Like, have we really seen sculpture really get disrupted? Like, it kind of raises that question. I don't follow sculpture super closely, but the technology is enabling a whole other level of sculpture, a whole different kind, shall we call it, of sculpture. This looked very interesting too. This is also from Hermipe's related Kamedo Art Center. So check this out. So a few different kinds of mark making. Let's put it this way, kind of a digital feel, but then a physical feel, combining both physical and digital, just kind of interesting here. As we get into the works, finally, 45 minutes in. My God, what a busy weekend that was. Mafia Race, awesome. Picked up by Neon Monk Martin Bruce. Look at this wonderful work here as we kind of see the TV snow in the background and just beautiful. Almost looks like the test drive works, but just more abstracted. It can seem to do no wrong. Mafia Race 2, edition of 1, selling for 200 Tezos. Here is Zuozo, somewhere in a rice field, so the ever prolific Zuozo. Let us see. So more beautiful work. I'm trying to get my mouse working again, but it's good. It's good I am able to keep going here. Here's Nuv 1914. Love this piece here. Incorporating that 3D, almost game tiling, and then this wonderful kind of soft mauve frame. Something about this work really exciting. Sobre El Guen, edition of 10 for 10 Tezos. None sold. Amazingly. That should be turned into a 1 of 1. Nuv 1914 also. 15 Tezos, edition of 6. And again, you see the experimentation here. Again, of kind of fuzzed out, radical decisions here being made by Nuv 1914 as usual. And looks like some plants. Just a wonderful artist. Here's another one, Algunos Lugares de Bienvenida. And here, it's getting pretty experimental, as you see with the tree and even the framing and everything. So very interesting avant-garde work. And this sold out at 11 Tezos each. Here's Walk, picked up by Scamra. How much did Scamra get this for? 10 Tezos. Getting a 1 of 1 Walk digital work. Again, looks like Guantanamo. From the Guantanamo Bay series called The War, 37. Here's Gozo. Longing, beautiful colors here. Again, I detect AI color palette at work, whether it's probably, like Scamra was saying, negative color palette. Kind of nice kind of movie element almost to these, everything here. Just unique, almost what I'd call surreal abstract. Almost representational. Interesting title, Longing. Love the margin here too. A little bit of the cream-colored frame actually adds a lot to the work. Here's Cider. It's a couple of fish also. So again, traveling from physical to digital and back. Very cool work here from Cider. Instantly recognizable. And look, doing quite well on X as we continue. Here's some interesting rooms from Yuri J, who of course I follow. Rooms, as you see. So this looks like the same composition, ultra textured out, and just, processed in different ways. Look at how great these look. Spectacular. From Yuri J. 13,500 views, doing quite well. Here's Scamra with some very textured works here. This is on Verseworks. Maybe this is part of the show. I was actually looking for the link. Thank you for posting the link there. So cool work from Scamra. We started the other day. Scamra's textures are getting next level. Here's another one. Putting the user interface in the background a little bit there. memory data register. And so this is also on Verse. So we'll have to take a quick look at those next show. I'll try and remember to bring up the Verse show. I was looking for it on their website. The Sirens, see Ulysses' ship approaching. And so here, kind of a classical theme, the Sirens, and done in Stable Diffusion. And so AI work here from Scamra. So a few works by Scamra. And here is Ratcloaksy something. So a surreal work here. Almost looks like Mickey Mouse type hands and gloves, but with a knife, and beautifully painted. Looks like Photoshop brushes, edgy and surreal. It is Photoshop brushes, edition of 10, and they are being listed for 15 Tezos. So nice work there, Pinstake, picking one up. And India Robot, Made You Look, Gozo, Mike Wilson. Yeah, just a classic collector bunch there. And here's Smith. Love the title of this, Crypto Art. Not sure I understand, but I love it. I just love and the banana with the mask on it. You see humor, and you just see kind of a bit of a Dali feel to Myth's work, interestingly. And I love the expression in the eyes. And there's the homunculi that we've seen in recent works, the yellow, red, and black. I picked one up, and only a Tezos. Here's Michiasu, Between the Waters. Nice piece here. Kind of avant-garde digital art here from Michiasu. How much did that go for? 18 Tezos. Nice sale. The Fox News. This is Wasteman Goldminovich, open edition. And so another kind of newscaster type Fox News. Kind of love this Fox News icon in the bottom left there. You will be next. And so somehow referring to Fox News there. Here is Dan Control, who of course I follow, Human Machine Nature. Interesting piece. Interesting juxtaposition. Again, looks like reusing elements, whether it's the hands and the pigeon or the drone, and then adding some perhaps geometry into the landscape, alternating the lighter and the batteries here, and even the figures. So always interesting, always a bit of humor, and always challenging conceptually with Dan Control. Here's PP Universal, Piazza Dental 18, so more dental work. Hopefully everything is well with PP Universal. Nice piece, interesting composition, and you can tell their teeth right away, can't you? Which is interesting. Here is Ilya Bliznets, who of course I follow, work in progress. So cool kind of brushwork here from Ilya Bliznets. Nice response there. 60 retweets, 564 likes, and a couple of works by Santiago, also known as Time. Me When I Think. I quite love these pieces here. I assume they're AI. They're wonderful. These are posted on X. Nice series. Nice series of 3. Really cool work. Here's Limbo. So, of course, I follow 8 editions of the first piece in my new collection. Liminalia are still available. Love this ad for the show, or, poster for the show. Here is the work, Classic Limbo. And there we have a retro computer. And it's almost like a comic frame, and beautifully, the dithering just works out perfectly on this screen here. Big eyeball. So very cool here. Contemporary Life is Weirder Than Yesterday, edition of 15 for 20 Tezos. Get it while you can. Here's John Cates. Ghost Pop Goes the Glitch, Western Icon. Cool combination of a train and a gun. 3-4 colors here. A feeling of haunted memories when ghost image apparitions in the Glitch Western Meta Machine. Edition of 1 and getting sent to EST. And here, Banner Mania lovers, so we got TV is another one. So a fun work here. Still has an 80s feel to it, doesn't it? And here is Disco Sucks. I guess we saw this earlier. So cool, fun work. And there are others too from Byte by Bit. Rural Idol picking that one up for 15 Tez. 15 Tez. This was cool. Canik Zapata. I mean, it's just endless here. This is like one weekend. This is since Friday, by the way. All of this. Like start race, see if we can left, and cellular automata racing. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but you see a little bit of, you know, and I'm hitting buttons here. Colors are changing. I mean, wild, hey? I wonder if this is, I wonder if this is how Canik Zapata, like when they're composing, when he's composing, if it's really just going like this and he kind of makes his own button. He's making his own tools with Python. So it's hugely powerful. Here is Cassern. Very excited to see. Of course, I follow just more awesome work here. Love this scene. I would be tempted to just cut it there. That's your NFT. You don't need to do the whole 5 different scenes. If you want to, you can, but I don't think you need to. This is just beautiful. Beautiful cut. You know, to a perfect world with nobody else around, all alone. That's another one. I mean, that's what's the crazy thing about Cassern's work is he could be pumping out 10 probably a day and selling them, I suspect. Very, very cool work. Here's our milk with a nice piece, a fighter jet done with basically operating system elements. Very cool. Here is this beautiful work by Ed Woods, who of course I follow. Teeth was collected on secondary for 35 Tezos. So maybe this is an older work. I don't remember seeing it. Very nice palette here. Looking great, actually. Here's RJ. So with the pool, a little bit of TV noise in the pool. And so GM, of course, I follow RJ. So nice colors here and kind of a fun composition. And love the animation in the pool there. Here is Sui Soichi, who, yeah, so here kind of more experimental pixel art mixing with textures. So it continues here with Sui Soichi, kind of a cool sci-fi feeling to this work, kind of organic feeling and in its own way. Again, it looks like processing on pixel art. Here you see it again. And hopefully Twitter doesn't do this hopefully this is temporary. What Twitter is doing. So as you see here, here is Hermipe. Here is Hermipe with glitch and pixel art. In combination here. Not sure you can see that. Bring it up very quickly. We're going to be going over an hour, as you see here. And is it pixel art? That's an interesting question. I think it is, but I think it's a much larger canvas. So these little triangles, or maybe they're reused and exported, but it starts with pixel art. Interesting piece. Here's more Hermipe. Very, 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 very interesting. Here. You start to see here what looks like a pixel art painting, for lack of better term. A pixel art painting where it feels very contemporary. Pixel art painting is almost what I want to call this. For all of the experimentation we've seen, I feel like this one broke new ground. I don't know if it was accidental. I don't know if layers are just being put on top of each other, turned on and off, and all of a sudden it's just random. I suspect that's what happened. He still walks alone. He needs a better phrase. This looks like pixel art painting. I was going to start with this, but I had to go with Turbo. So yeah, very interesting work here from Hermipe. Here is, who is this? Banku 8. So I think this is the person that does the cats, the pixel art cats out of Japan. We might have more work by them. Here's Xerox, who of course I follow. Nice piece here. And not sure exactly what is being repeated, but just cool patterning here, black and white work. Here is Lucas Ox out of Buenos Aires. Really nice piece here. Great landscape. Here with different kinds of textures. You see the TV texture here at the bottom, but then a different kind of texture in the sun and in the sky, and then keeping the middle still. Nice technique all around. Cool landscape. Nice piece. Here's Cap'n. Great work here. As we see XY0 listing tomorrow. Just makes it look so easy, doesn't he? So XYZ we see at the bottom here, just, riffing, jamming, so to speak. Datura with some new work. So it's great to see Datura back on the scene last few weeks. This, I think, is for aleatory objects. Is this new? I think so. Yep, I think it might be for the object for object, which is great. Haiti Rocket, bug. So Haiti Rocket with a few works here. Leaving in at the top, as you see, part of the software the window of this emulator. This is called Bug Edition of 5. And here's more quick disk. So really nice, very good ASCII artist. And love the half, again, similar to what we just saw with Lucas Ox, keeping half of it static, half of it dynamic or moving. Creates a great contrast, kind of instant poetry. Here's a beautiful glitch ROM from Haiti Rocket too. With WoW, kind of does it like no one else, amazingly. So very nice work there. Edition of 420, you can still get it for 23 Tezos on primary. Here is Mason the Third, mashing the FM tracks. Sounds like super sped up. Kind of reminds you, maybe it could hang in the same room as a Waffles with the pin stake, with a pin stake work. Burned. Okay, maybe there's another version of that. Here's Sabato with a glitch ROM, Namesake, and this is celebrating, I think, what is it, 10 years of doing Echo the Dolphin, if I'm not mistaken. I thought I read. Maybe it's 6,000 days, not sure. No, it can't be 6,000 days, but here it is. Echo, it says. So nice piece here. That I think that's 10 for 15 Tezos each from Sabato. Pretty reasonable. And here is DJ Kiro with some cool glitch ROMs here. So all sorts of different glitch ROMing going on. This is hardware based, I believe. So that's why it looks extra rich, you might say, or having that almost other kind of organic feel to it. Here is Uran Yakon, Deep Sea Cable. There's a whole, I love this series. This is new as far as I understand. Deep Sea Cable, what a wonderful kind of geopolitical theme. Of course, the cable getting cut somewhere around Norway, Denmark, under the sea. All sorts of intrigue around that. What a great subject for a work. And there's a whole series that Uran Yakon has made. So wonderful concept. Love it. Sold for 3 Tezos for that one of one, and there's more. So maybe you can get another one if you're excited by that, as I am. Ernesto Ash, nice piece here. Cordelia Digital. Cool. Love these big chunky pixels contrasting with that landscape. Really nice piece here. Great color. Fun piece. This is for just open edition for a Tezos 23. Here is Filippo Francocci, always waiting for something. As you see here, kind of mixing abstract. I think there's some AI in here, maybe a little bit of collage. It might say, so cool kind of semi-representational work. Here it is, digital collage using screenshots, photos, and AI outputs. Very cool there. That's an open edition. Here's Mikkel Noelsen with some newer kind of works here, adding black into the mix, which I quite like. It's pretty cool. I hope I have the other one. I don't know if I do, though. So very nice piece here from Mikkel Noelsen. Yeah, I'll have to find that other one. Guru Hyena, because both of them, I was going to put them together. Anyways, Escape. Guru Hyena, nice piece. Kind of semi-abstract, but you kind of get the sense of some sort of anime figure or something. Drawing, so all sorts of combining a lot of different, processes and elements to create kind of a digital, what would we call it? Just a digital canvas, I guess, but with lots of different digital styles kind of incorporated into one big kind of piece here. Edition of 420 for 1 Tezos. Here's Feels. Another beautiful work combining kind of the almost vector-like bubbles here and then pixels. Nice contrast as the grid starts to get pixeled out. Beautiful. 22,000 views, 233 retweets. So doing fabulous there. Here's Elna Frederick, 78. This is quite interesting, isn't it? Doing pixel art. Very interesting. Love it. May 9th, 2025. So brand new from Elna Frederick. Here's Gino. This is longer, so we can't play the whole thing. We're already at an hour 4. But the music's awesome. Really nice piece from Gino. Great. Just nice piece. I mean, we see Dr. Version, we see Gino with these kind of audio and analog video glitch. Very cool. Edition of 1 for 333 Tezos, still available. Here's Klaus. This is composition 458. Nice color. Very nice color. And picked up for, I think, 21 Tezos. So continuing to sell. And continuing, 458. Incredible. Rikuchu Oob. This is Renki with another animated abstract, nice and textured, a nice kind of limited palette, mostly red and black, a little bit of blue, edition of 10. So you can probably put a bid on that one. Lickas 33 GB, Waves. So interesting, what looks like analog video glitch with some pixelation in it. Big kind of VHS tape footage using Mismatcher, Petite, and CRT. Very cool. Here is Vespertino. Is Vespertino? I thought this was Acid Boy. Is Vespertino the new name, or maybe this is someone different? Not sure. Falling, as you see here. I think maybe Acid Boy retweeted this, but I thought this was maybe, so who knows? Cool work here. Could hang with Acid Boy if it is indeed another person. Here is MCHX. Cool minimal gradient here, color field. And we have another one, another minimal MCHX work here. So very nice work. Has worked with AI in the past to make some of these color fields, which is very cool. But I think started, I'm not sure if it's always been AI or just sometimes or more lately. Here's Tukes, complete AI here. Very, unique landscapes and images from Tukes. Beautiful work. Here's Lily Illo with a nice and textured AI artwork here. Very interesting piece. Here, okay, we don't have a ton of time. Let me go to the start a little bit for this no hygiene video. Another wild no hygiene video. Somehow, is no hygiene capturing the zeitgeist? This is the question. And I was trying to skip through it. So I can't go through all of the madness here. And I mean that in the best possible sense. Edition of 1 for 2,500 Tezos. I hope that sells. Easttown Bull-based record label Amel promotes a non-sectarian approach to supporting creative work. So not exactly sure what this is. Made with AI tools, Midjourney. Here's another no hygiene work. This is for 200 Tezos. And as you see, just original as ever, nice static work. It's good to offer different kinds of work, expensive, cheap, everything in between. Here is Little Cakes. I believe this is the work. I think the work that we saw, the earlier version of, that looks like the Kool-Aid guy. Pretty funky. Very cool. And it's like Mortal Kombat fight. And like the Kool-Aid guy is a strawberry. Not sure what's going on. Pretty amazing. Here's, of course, Walk with a gorgeous physical here. So not sure. The future is in Torino. The Future Festival without an E. That is a cool poster. What does it say here? Wow. So Walk again, showing skill. Here's Walk again with this gorgeous dog here. Master of the spray paint, doggo. And here is Ken Consumer, who I need to visit at his bar down here in Neukölln, Berlin. I think this is painted with, because has a lot of these pen plotters. I think this is painted with a pen plotter, if I had to guess, which is pretty darn interesting. You don't often see this large of brush marks. Very interesting. And that is your show, my friends. I guess I forgot the outro. Thanks for joining me again. Thanks for all your support. And until next time, take care.